Welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be drawing some interesting architecture here on the water with some pen and ink. I'm going to walk you through my entire process. So before I start getting too far into the pencil sketch, I'd like to share with you the reference photo that I'm going to be using for this particular scene. So there's the reference photo. That's what I'm going to be working with. Pretty simple. And I decided to speed up the pencil sketch part. It takes about 10 minutes, but as you can see here, things to take note is that I'm keeping it pretty loose, pretty sketchy, but still accurate. And also take note of where I'm holding the pencil. Like down halfway on the middle part of the pencil, holding it very lightly. I'm not really worrying about detail here. I'm just worrying about proportions, placement, and getting something sketchy down, Once I got the pencil sketch down and I'm happy with it, the next thing I go into is the ink line work. And this is the start of the final process because every line that I'm putting down now is going to show in the final drawing, obviously, because I'm using ink here. I'm using a micron pen, an 02 micron. But it's really not important, to be honest. You can use any kind of fine liner for this kind of ink work. Also, take note of the type of lines that I'm drawing. It really depends on the texture. I'm focusing on the texture, how the roof is different than the bamboo sticks and the poles, the edges and thing. I'm paying attention to the edges. Creating a lot of interesting variety of lines, thick and thin lines, dashes, strokes, all these different kinds of lines to create different textures or just the look of different textures, so to speak. But notice how this is real-time speed here. So notice how quickly I'm kind of going about this. I'm enjoying this part of the process. This is fun to me. And I know it sounds simple, but I think most people forget to have fun during the process, Drawing is fun to me. So I just try to have fun with it. And notice how I'm drawing these kind of straight lines, like this ladder I'm drawing here. The straight lines, they don't have to be perfectly straight. It's fun to draw straight lines and just be bold with it. Just commit to the line, be bold, have fun. And even though the line's not perfectly straight, it has character to it. And that's what I've gotten used to recently with sketching this kind of stuff, is just going for it. Look at my lines here with all these poles I'm going to be drawing of this little hut that they're standing up on. I'm just going for it, man. I'm just drawing them quite quickly. And this gives my sketch its originality, its personality. It gives it some character. If I used a ruler or I sat there and really tried to draw all these lines perfectly straight, it's not going to have much character. It's not going to have much personality. It's not going to show that it was my hand that drew these. But also something important to think about is that even though I'm keeping it very loose, very sketchy here, this is just kind of the way that I like to draw, that I like to sketch. There's a difference between sketchy and loose and something being sloppy. So I'm not trying to be sloppy here. I'm still trying to be accurate with my lines. I'm still trying to, I'm not being sloppy about it. I'm just being sketchy. I'm having fun. I would say being sloppy is kind of ignoring proportions and kind of something that's not adding character to it. It's kind of just hurting the drawing rather than helping it or adding character to it. So there's kind of like a fine line there, I think. And now I'm going to start on the kind of the main building here, the big, larger building. But it's no different than what I've been drawing this whole time. I'm going to draw the roof again, paying attention to the different textures and things. So I'm going to speed this part up for you guys because I don't want this video to be take so long. So we'll speed up the rest of the ink work here, the line work. And just know that this whole process, this whole drawing took me about 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. So I'm going to speed up some areas of this drawing so that we can get through it. And this is what you're seeing now is my absolute favorite part of the drawing process, is using a brush pen and filling in the darkest darks. So I decided, okay, I finished the line work and now I want to put in the darkest shadows. And this just helps me gauge like the overall look of my drawing, filling in these darkest darks. And notice how I'm filling in really big dark areas like these windows. I don't fill it in completely. There's like little gaps here and there. Like I said, I like it to be sketchy. So this is just my personal preference. It may not be something that you like to do, or maybe you don't like this particular look. Everyone's different. So just keep that in mind. Also, something I wanted to mention is when I'm doing the ink line work, the pencil underneath is just there as a guide. I'm not trying to just trace the pencil. I'm just using it as a guide. So you can see a lot of my ink work is different than the pencil line that I had. The pencil is just, think of it as like construction lines. It's just kind of the bones of the drawing. And then when I'm doing the ink line work, I'm able to modify some things if need be, and just use the pencil as a guide. And now I'm doing the same thing with the brush pen. I'm using that ink line work as kind of a guide. And then now I'm making some areas thicker if they need to, or thinner, darkening areas. And this is really the part that brings it to life for me. It's so fun to see it. I mean, you can see it already, it's just coming to life. Yeah, I just had a lot of fun creating this one, and I think it really shows in the final product. It was so much fun to draw this one. And that's something we have to try to get back to. Everybody's so overthinking everything and so stressed about drawing and afraid. And I think it's fun to just get a small sketchbook and just draw for 30 minutes and have fun with it. Try to see what you're able to create. What kind of textures can you make? So I think you guys get the idea with the brush pen here. So I'm going to magically speed the rest of this up as well, because you guys kind of understand how I use it. And so we'll fill in some of these areas, some of the darker areas. There's going to be a large dark area here on the small building, which really is nice, really great. Adds a lot of contrast. So now the next tool in my arsenal here is a watercolor brush pen. In particular, this is a light gray watercolor brush pen. I'm just adding in some shadows, some shadow shapes. Now this light gray doesn't show up too well in the video. There's a slight bit of a glare on the video. I apologize for that, but what can you do? It is what it is. So it's a little bit darker in person, and I could have used a different darker shade. I have some other, like 5 or 6 other shades of dark gray, dark and light grays. But I particularly like the light gray. I like how it looks. So that's just my thing. So I'm adding it here in the water as well, underneath the whole building, in the water where need be. So this is just a lot of fun to use, and it's just a quick way to get another tone of value into the drawing. But I try to keep it, pretty solidified. So I'm going to speed this part up as well. You guys get the idea. We're just filling in some color here. No big deal. Don't have to sit here and watch it. So just filling in the final areas. And now this is kind of the last 5 to 10% of the drawing. So I decided to go back with some fine liner, do some line work, and add some more detail around kind of this larger building mostly, because I want that to be the focal point and kind of the shadow side of it where that doorway is. So I'm going to add a lot of detail there. I want more of the focus to be there. At least that's what I was thinking. And this is kind of dangerous too. This is because the reason is it's very easy to overdo this part. It's very easy to get carried away, put too much in, and then you end up, instead of strengthening the drawing, you end up weakening the drawing. So that's something to be aware of and be careful of. And there's really nothing, you know, it's hard to know when to stop. You kind of just have to have an intention, be aware of it, really take note, you know, put a little bit of detail in and ask yourself, does it really need more? You know, step away from the drawing for a while if you need to. Come take a look at it again with fresh eyes. Basically, there's no rule here. It's kind of like I could stop right now if I wanted to. There's really no reason to add any more detail, to be honest. And looking back at it, I probably should have left some of this more blank. It's good to have some white space in your drawing. Kind of here on this right side of the building, I probably shouldn't have put the details that I'm putting in right now. There's really no need for it. I was just kind of getting carried away. But it's nice to have white space like that because it really gives focus to more of the detailed areas. And also something else what I'm doing right now on this kind of thatching grass work on this small building, I'm kind of feathering out some of the areas. So where there's a lot of dark, really dark areas, I'm adding some hatching that creates a value in between the light area and the darkest dark area. So it's kind of a mid-value of hatching between those two. It kind of softens it, so to speak, and it works really well. So just a little bit more details in the water here, just to give a little more reflections, a little more interest, things happening down there. But anyway, this one's pretty much done. You guys can see the finished product here in a second. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Did you find this video helpful? Let me know down below in the comments. Hope you enjoyed seeing this process. And yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing this one and sharing it with you. There's the final drawing. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care of yourself. Peace, my friends.